You ever wonder what a wholesaling business and their CRM flow looks like and how that all works? Stay tuned, and I'm going to show you how mine works. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Graylan Stewart. I'm a virtual wholesaler and entrepreneur. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you watching. If you like this content, give me a thumbs up. If you hate it, thumbs down is cool as well. But anyways, let's get into the video. So I'm talking about my Wholesaling Real Estate CRM. Many of you have asked on YouTube and different social media platforms on what my CRM flow looks like, what it looks like, how it works, and that kind of thing. So here's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go through it all. So first of all, we do use Podio. That's a generic kind of CRM that is catered to any type of business, really, but it's super popular in the investment and especially in the wholesaling world. A lot of people use Podio because it's super customizable. It can be as basic as you want or as advanced as you want it to be as well. Sorry about that. Anyway, so here's how it works with me, okay? Obviously, we have Podio. That is the brains of our operation, so to speak. I've done a video on this before. It's Podio or it didn't happen. Like, if it's not in Podio, I don't believe you, okay? Because we do everything in Podio. We document everything, conversations, leads. Everybody uses Podio in my company, and that is what we do everything through, and that's how our whole business is ran, okay? Now, you have to have really good people to run your CRM, but the CRM actually runs our business, okay? All right, so here's how it looks like. When we have Podio, we have a lot of other things that are kind of linked up to Podio, if that makes sense. They all integrate into each other. Some of that is by direct API, which you need typically a coder or not a coder necessarily, but what am I trying to think of? A computer developer is what I'm trying to think of. You either need a developer to connect the direct API, or you can use a service called Zapier. Some people call it Zapier. It's Zapier though, because you're actually doing zaps. But Zapier is really kind of that in-between connector between different software systems, if you will. For example, so my Podio right now, we have smartphone is our live. We do have a dialer portion of it, but it's our live telephone to where when the phone rings, it actually rings inside of our CRM Podio, and we make calls directly from Podio via smartphone, okay? But also we have CallRail integrated into my Podio. CallRail is strictly for tracking purposes. It tracks all of our calls, leads, everything else. So everyone in my business, we all have our own personal work cell phone numbers that we can give to clients and whatever. And we also have multiple numbers for different marketing strategies that we do, okay? So that's all tracked through CallRail, and that's integrated into Podio, okay? But also, within my Podio, we do have different web forms, and Podio offers these things for free to where you can have web forms on your website or on your Facebook ads or different things like that. You can just end up integrating those into your CRM via your website or wherever you got it from. And a lot of times you use Zapier to actually get that accomplished as well. But let's just get into exactly how and actually, side note, I also have Roar, which is who we use for SMS and RVM. That's integrated into my Podio. We also have ZenCall, that's XENCALL. That's integrated into my Podio. That's what my cold callers use. So when they have hot leads, they push a button, it goes right into my Podio. So that's kind of how that works. And as far as the Roar goes, my SMS and RVM, so we have a whole separate workspace within my Podio that those messages go to, so that it doesn't log down my actual acquisition seller leads section of our workspace. So anyways, so I think I have 8 different workspaces in my Podio. So what is a workspace? So let's just think of it of like website pages. That's kind of the easiest way to describe it. So like my acquisition team, they have a page, a workspace. My disposition team has one. My transaction coordinator has one. We do have one for the text blast to come in. I've got a master workspace. I've got a rental workspace. I've got an inventory workspace. I've got a realtor or boots on the ground workspace. I believe that's all. That's the ones I can think of at the moment. There might be one or two others, but so each person, basically each position in the company, has their own workspace. Now, the reason I did it like that, you don't have to. A lot of times people just have one workspace within their Podio, but the reason I did it like that is because when I hire positions out, I only want them to learn their one position so they can master that position, be really good at that position, and that's what they take ownership of, right? I don't want my acquisitions to learn how to do transaction coordinating, nor do I want them to learn how to do dispositions or the marketing. That is another workspace I have, is marketing. But anyways, I don't want my disposition manager knowing how to acquisition a deal either when the leads come in. You know what I mean? It's just, there's way too many moving parts in this business for one individual to do. It's great when you're a solopreneur starting out and you only have a handful of leads. Sure, one person can handle that. But when you're scaling up and you're actually doing several deals a month and you've turned it into a real business, you're going to need all those different positions, and you want them to master their position only. So not only is it because we want them to be really good at what they do and to focus on that one thing, but it's also because we're not trying to teach them to become wholesalers. We're just teaching them that one skill and that one position within our wholesaling business, if that makes sense. So therefore, you're less likely to have somebody just to go try this on their own after a while, because they only know that one part of the business, if that makes sense. But nevertheless, here's what my wholesale CRM flow actually looks like. Okay, so first we set up the marketing. Now, any marketing that we do, obviously, we have different marketing numbers through CallRail that ends up going into Podio when we get leads. Okay, so things like radio and Facebook and pay-per-click and billboards and TV and postcards, all those things are people calling you. Okay. So when they call you, obviously those leads come into our CRM. So we have an activity page in Podio. It's just kind of like the home page, if you will. So within the acquisition workspace, we have a bunch of different, what do you call them? We have a bunch of different apps, is what they're called. And it's kind of like just pages within that one workspace. So activity page is kind of the home page that just kind of gives an overview of everything happening. We've got a bunch of KPIs built out on that page, just showing everybody where they're at, where the company is at in general, on leads and everything else. And then we've got an app called Seller Leads. Okay, so Seller Leads is where my acquisition managers live all day, every day. Okay, that's where all the money happens. Okay, because the leads come into the Seller Leads app. Now, when they get those leads, obviously our goal is to contact the lead as soon as possible. Really, the goal is under 5 minutes. But obviously that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's way too long. But it's especially important on different types of marketing that you're doing to get to those leads quickly. Okay, some leads it's not quite as important. But then we've got the things like that we actually reach out to people, like the RVMs and the cold calling and the SMS, where we're actively pursuing people in hopes to get a lead. Okay, but those are the same way. They actually come into our CRM. When cold calls hit, that it's a hot lead, it's going to go into our CRM. If an RVM presses 1 because they want to talk to an agent, it's going to come into our CRM. If the SMS workspace kind of gathers up hot leads, they're going to push a button. It's going to go into our Seller Leads app for acquisitions, and they're going to be able to call that as well. So I'm not trying to ramble on about that, but sales app is really where all the money is made, okay? Because that's where every single one of our leads come in. That's where you can set up different views within Podio. And probably sometime in the future, I'll do an actual video of my actual Podio so you can kind of see a breakdown. I'll have to blur a lot of things out just to protect, the leads and phone numbers and all those kind of things. But at the same time, I can kind of give you a better idea of how that actually all works. But so for now, seller leads, all the leads come in. You can set up different views. So, for example, each acquisition manager can have their own view within that page, just showing their own leads. But the way we do it, I have a few different views set up automatically for the whole team to look at. Okay, so I've got my hot and new leads. That's all in one view. Hot and new is in one view. So that's our hot leads queue is kind of what we call it. So that's really the queue that they're looking at all day, every day. Now we also have our nurture, all the nurtured leads. Now we have nurture short term, nurture long term. Now the short term means this is actually assigned to an acquisition manager. They are pursuing these leads. They just have to do more follow up with them. So our hot leads are the ones that we believe that will close within the next 30 to 45 days. When I say close, meaning they believe they'll get the contract within the next 30 to 45 days, and they're new leads as well. Okay, so that's why they're kind of active on that more than anything else, because that's super hot leads and that's brand new leads coming in. Now the nurture leads are the ones that they've got to kind of keep following up with a little bit more, or they're not going to be ready for a few months, those kind of things. But they actually are actively following up with those people every single week still, okay? Whether that's by automation or by actual manual follow-up by phone or text, okay? Or email in some cases. But we also have long-term nurture. So anything kicked into long-term nurture, that's for our follow-up specialist, which I don't even have one yet, but I'm going to be hiring a follow-up specialist soon to where they're just going to be cold calling those people all day, every day until they're hot again. These are just older leads that kind of never went anywhere, but they're still leads that we paid for that we don't want to throw away. We never throw away a lead, by the way. We only get rid of a lead if it's dead. And the only way that it can actually be dead is if they actually sold the property to someone else already, or they straight up said, "Do not call me again," and they're F-bombing you and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, threatening you. That's the only way, two ways that you can get out of our system, okay? So they're either threatening you with F-bombs and lawsuits, or they already sold the property. Otherwise, they're going to get followed up in some form or fashion from my team forever and ever until they either sell us the property, or they sell it to someone else, or they, F-bomb us or say I'm suing you or do not call, those kind of things, right? So otherwise, they're getting followed up with forever, okay? These are leads that they're not just suddenly not motivated anymore, if you know what I'm saying. Because if they have a distress today, they're going to have one in 5 years, even though we never got the deal, okay? That's the reason we're going to follow up forever, okay? So now the flow goes. Here's how the flow goes. So once the acquisitions actually gets a deal, let's just say they negotiate, okay? They negotiate with the seller. Now, when you click on the Seller Leads app, it's got the list of all the leads. You can click on a lead to go inside of that lead to where to actually tell their name, address, phone number, email address. We have a whole thing built out to show us condition of their property. Then we've got miscellaneous notes to record every conversation that we do, including text messaging, okay? So once we get a deal, you scroll down to the very end of that page, and we can actually send a contract from Podio. There's one more thing I forgot that we have integrated is DocuSign. So DocuSign is integrated in our Podio to where we just fill out the particulars, like how much we're buying the house for, inspection period time, the agreed time that will close, any extra things like that. And then we can just click the button to actually send that contract. And then it notifies us when we get the contract back with a signature, okay? And then I personally have to sign after the seller signs. So once that happens, that's automatically sent to two of our workspaces, okay? That's going to dispositions and that's going to transactions. Now, when you're in either one of those workspaces, we have different criterias for every new deal that comes into our queue. So one of them is new deal. Obviously, that's a given. That means it's a brand new deal. We've got one that says pre-marketing, meaning it's not ready to be marketed yet. It's in pre-marketing because the transaction coordinator is still doing their due diligence to make sure it's even ready, okay? It's her job to talk to the seller, talk to the title company, eventually talk to the buyer, but in the interim, they are making sure the ARV is what acquisition thinks it is. This is a double check for them. In the meantime, dispositions is also double checking the ARV, even though they're not allowed to market the property yet until it actually says transaction approved, start marketing. That's one of the things it'll show. And then eventually, once the property is being marketed, obviously it'll say marketing at that point. And then when disposition sells the property, she will change it to say assigned, meaning she sold the property. So then that automatically kicks back a notification to transactions showing that the property is assigned. So now my transaction coordinator knows that she's got to talk to the buyer now, okay, to confirm that they dropped off the earnest money that was agreed upon. They're filing the contract with the other seller contract, and then they're sending that document to the title company as well, okay? So let me back up a little bit. So as soon as transactions gets that first new deal, they're automatically sending that contract to the title company. They're also sending an affidavit of equitable interest or a memorandum. They're very similar. So they're going to send that to the title company, and the title company is going to file that on our behalf. What that does is protect anyone from going around us on that property. Okay, it protects it protects us from the seller potentially backing out of the deal after they have agreed to sell us the property. And usually they don't ever back out unless there's somebody else involved. Usually it's because they got a better offer, which they can't renege on our deal just because they got a better offer. Okay, or it's because a buyer tries to go around us, and it's the same thing, gives them a better offer. Usually they're getting an offer, blindly, because a ton of people are calling on these people every day. But every once in a while, it's an actual buyer trying to steal our deal and saying, "Hey, I'll give you this amount." It's probably more than Graylan was giving you, or his company is giving you, or whatever. So that's the other reason that we file that affidavit. So it just prevents somebody from going around us, and it really just clouds the title to where they cannot ever sell that house without us. Now, if we're not able to sell the deal, or we back up the deal, or whatever, obviously we release that affidavit so that they're free from and their obligations free from us, because we don't want to hold them up by any means. We just want to protect ourselves, because it costs a lot of money just to get the deal, right? Every deal costs money. There's an acquisition cost because you spend money on marketing, time and energy and effort from your acquisitions doing it, and then we've got time, energy, and effort from transactions and dispo as well. So anyways, so the whole flow goes like that. So when dispositions, again, sells the deal, they click on assigned, and then they're kind of done with their part. Acquisitions been done with their part for a while. Now transactions, their job is to make sure it gets to the closing table. So they're talking to the seller, they're talking to the buyer, they're talking to the title company, and anyone involved in between. It could be a probate attorney, anything else along those lines. And sometimes there's other title companies involved, not just one on occasion. So the transaction coordinator's sole job is for us to get paid. That's it. At the end of the day, that's their main job, to get to the closing table so we can all get paid. Because in my company, nobody eats until closing day. Okay. You get paid when we get paid. That's just how we work things. So that way everybody is always motivated to get deals done and push through. I know a lot of people do base salaries and things like that. I'm not opposed to that. We do, on occasion, we will do, draws for new employees just to give them a little bit of money until they get things figured out, start getting money coming in. But other than that, it's commission only in my business. You eat what you kill. Everybody's motivated to get that deal done and to the closing table. So that's how we work that. So once that happens now let's just say now we've got our transactions. Okay, we've got, for example, if we had 20 in escrow, which we have more than that right now, but let's just say we had 20 in escrow. So we have a quick view made for transactions as well, just like we do in acquisitions. In acquisitions we had the hot leads queue, we had the nurture leads, and then we had the long-term nurture. So in transactions we have active deals. That's one view. We've got 2021 closings. That's a view, and we've got dead leads. That's a view as well, because we want to know how many deals out of all the deals we've signed, how many of them ended up dead, and for what reason. So if we can quickly just click on dead leads, pulls up all the dead leads, and it shows the reasons right there on that view, because you can customize your views on how you want them. So the reasons are, For example, like we bought it too high, or seller backed out, or just different situations like that. That gets you the point. But so our active deals, obviously in the active, it's got a list of all of the properties, but it also has a quick view, along those lines that'll say assigned or pre-marketing or marketing, or it might say transaction approved, start marketing, meaning they already approved it for Dispo and Dispo just hasn't taken it yet to marketing, because once they start marketing the property, they're going to move that to marketing. So hopefully that makes sense. It kind of shows where everything's at along the way. It just shows us where we're at in the process of the deal, really, so that everybody's on the same page. Now, again, acquisitions only has access to their workspace. Dispositions only has access to their workspace, and the same with transactions. But they all kind of talk to each other to where everybody kind of is on the same page. For example, like acquisitions, it'll show the projected profit based on what we've assigned or already sold for the month, and then it'll show the ones that are not assigned still. So they kind of have an idea of where their deal is along the process, so they don't have to keep asking the different departments like, hey, when's this deal closing? It's all there in front of their face on the activity page. So anyways, hopefully that was all that made sense. And like I said, I'll do an actual video showing you my Podio probably sometime in the future, just to give you a better idea. But this gives you a good general overview of what happens from when we get the deal to when it's closed. Now, again, when we do have a deal that's closing, transactions, obviously we have the 2021 close. So as soon as I click on closed, now that automatically goes into that other view of 2021 closed. So then that automatically actually pushes to the finance workspace. That's another one I forgot. So we do have 10 of them. It'll move over to the financial workspace, and then that's what I do currently. Once it goes into financial, that's when everybody gets paid. So the day we close, I verify all the numbers, and that's the same way. I click on it, automatically shows who the acquisition manager was, what their commission percentage is, and it factors in. It already automatically calculates what their commission is based on that percentage. So all I got to do is go into there, and I can just click a button that says, okay, it's pre-approved or whatever, need to pay, I think is what it says. So then I can just go into, my business account and pay those people. Once I pay them, I click on paid. It'll spit out a spreadsheet for me that I can actually email all the different individuals involved with that transaction to show that they got paid, and it gives them a kind of a commission statement. So that's kind of how we do that. Then after that, that's basically the whole process from when we get the deal, or from when we first get the lead, all the way to the closing table. And that's kind of how the whole flow of my CRM, my Podio works. So hopefully that all made sense. But anyways, thanks for sticking around this long. I do appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Drop some comments if you got questions. I'd be glad to answer those for you. Please subscribe if you're still here, and I'd greatly appreciate that. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.